Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Welcome to our discussion reaction review of Loki Season 2. This is Episode 1, and this is called Ouroboros, or Obi.
Obi.
Because we got Ki Hu Kwan in the MCU, and
Yay.
we're all happy. Now if we can just get him in Star Wars, I'll be a happy boy. A couple of things before we get into our discussion of this episode. One, pay the actors. You've paid the writers, pay the actors. We are in support of the Actors Guild. They are discussing right now. We are coming at this as fans of the thing and the people who worked on the thing. And it, I don't want people to misskew how we think. We are very much, we have friends in the industry. They need to get back to work. With all of that being said, we also love this stuff, and so we want to have the opportunity. We're not doing this for money. We're just two people sitting in my room of toys to sit around and talk about this stuff. We just happen to think about recording it, and this Loki is just shining a little bit too much. There we go. So that is out there. Two, if you haven't been to one of our reviews before, we do Star Wars, Marvel, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones. She's got new bangs. She doesn't know how to handle
They're all
them
like
yet.
poking up.
You get the Michael Jackson thing kind of going
do.
right now. And so we kind of wander and talk about themes. We'll point out details as we see them. We probably have a little bit better idea of what's going on with this Loki series since we watched season 2 several times.
Season
one several times. And we've watched a bunch of the Easter egg videos and different things that get us caught up and ready for this season. With all of that being said, let's get into this episode. This was written as one big, long 12-episode arc. But they want to tell a story in the MCU. This is a personal opinion. I have no information on this until I'm told differently. They have a story that they want to tell in the MCU, and they're using Loki as one of the vehicles to do it, much like they did with WandaVision, much like they did with What If. This was one big story they wanted to tell, introducing Kang.
Right.
But it was 12 episodes, or close to 12 episodes. So they did 6 episodes and said, "Oh, we're only going to do one season." He Who Remains gets pruned, and the timeline goes crazy, and this episode picks up from that point. It leaves us telling one continuous story. This is episode 7 of season 1.
Yes. No time has elapsed from the very end of episode 6 of the first season to now.
Yeah.
So it's explaining where we are and
this is
what's going on, I think.
This is the first episode after a mid-season break.
Yeah. Didn't they originally want Loki to be a movie? They were originally going to make it a movie, and then they decided to make it
There's been some different conversations about what was supposed to be a movie and what was supposed to, and what they specifically wrote as a TV show. A lot of that decision making was going on when Disney Plus was becoming.
Yeah.
And so
they were like, "Oh, let's just put it on the new, brandy new app."
And draw people there and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think this was always supposed to be a show.
Okay.
They always had a deeper story they wanted to tell.
Yeah. But I appreciate, okay. I appreciate what Disney Plus, specifically, some of the other streaming apps have gotten on the bandwagon a little bit, in that it allows, especially for Marvel, and now for Star Wars, to go in and tell, fill stuff in, right?
Spend more time with it.
Spend more time with it, and explain what happened between movie A and movie B, and fill it in, and it makes the whole universe, much like Star Wars, it makes it richer and fuller because you have all these other stories going on. Now, again, That being said, pay your actors.
Right. Pay your actors. You paid your writers. Pay your set crews. Pay your VFX people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm there for all of that. But yeah, I like this. I'm a Star Wars fan first, and that's my number one fandom. Marvel, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones are all like shortly thereafter. But I like the interconnectivity that is Star Wars with the books, the comics, the animation, the live action, the movies, the shows. I like that. And I like that Marvel, you don't necessarily have to watch Captain Marvel to enjoy Miss Marvel.
Right.
But if you did watch Captain Marvel and you have read some of the comics, you're going to love Miss Marvel even more.
Right.
And this is one of the few exceptions where you should watch season 1 first.
Yeah. You're going to have no idea. Well, I mean, you might have a slight idea because He Who Remains has been now introduced to us in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So
he was a Kang variant.
Yes. Yeah. A Kang variant. But definitely the first season, especially that last episode, explains. Like if you went to see Ant-Man and the Ant-Man Quantumania and didn't watch that, you're going to be like,
yeah,
why are there 50 million of the same guy? And I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So I really love that connectiveness because we're weirdos and we'll watch all that stuff. I can't wait for What If, because What If matters. And every little detail matters, especially in the post-credit scene. It had a bunch of new extra things in it. It's had the same beats as the previous season of the first season, just with new things added for this season. There's all clues to things that are going to be going on. What this episode is the race against time of Loki slipping through time.
Right.
And him, because Sylvie killed He Who Remains, and the timeline's out of sync, Loki is out of sync with the timeline. And because we got so many different variants of Loki through time, and having them all pruned and being in the void and all that stuff, he keeps slipping in and out of time within the TVA, which shouldn't be possible because magic doesn't work and that kind of stuff doesn't work. But he keeps slipping in time from the past, or at least we think it's the present, to the past. Let's talk about that first. When the last scene that we get in season 1 is him going to the archive and looking out, and the Kang statue is standing there,
right?
And Hunter is standing there with Morbius and
Mobius.
Sorry, no Mobius. And the two of them are talking about how the timeline is going haywire, and Loki comes up and says, Morbius. Something happened. We have to do something. Blah 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 blah. And they are the two of them are like, "Who are you? I don't know who you are."
Yeah.
So the season starts. The season starts at that point,
right?
And then Loki getting chased, and then he glitches like across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about what that could mean in the future in future episodes. But he glitches to our timeline, our point.
Current day
616
TVA, right?
Timeline,
right?
And
because it's the same. I think it's the same. I mean, they don't have the TVA doesn't have timelines like that. The TVA is supposed to be static,
right?
But he's moving back and forth between the past and the future.
Yeah,
within the TVA, because a chase ensues. He hops in what looks suspiciously like a Volkswagen van bus or van truck.
Yeah.
Crashes through the window into like the control center, and the monitor drops and cracks the floor. And then he glitches out and he's back in that room. And he thinks, I don't know. Maybe he does think he was going to different timelines or whatever until he sees that crack in the floor, and then he knows.
And Casey remembers him.
Yeah.
And he didn't remember him in the other time period.
Yeah.
And Casey says, well, that's always been there. It's as long as I can remember it's been there.
Yep.
But when they go to add the attachment to the timeline to help the spaghetti filter, for lack of a better term, where all the different timelines are going into one timeline.
Yeah.
That whole scene, as OB is explaining it, Mobius writes skin ? On one of the monitors. When Loki glitches again, he thinks he's gone to the past. It's actually the future because skin in the dust is written there.
Right.
So it makes me question, is he actually not glitching in time? Is he glitching? Is everything around him glitching? Like he's the one that's stationary and everything around him is glitching through time.
But then why would he be the only one experiencing
Because he's the only one that was at... Him and Sylvie were the only ones that were at the point of where he remains. Again, if you haven't been around for one of our reviews, it's a lot of spitballing trying to figure who out. So I'm wondering if it's the TVA that's glitching because the power keeps going out, and they try to explain it as, oh, there's too much stuff trying to go through this filter to kind of control the timeline, and that's okay, sure, but there's things going on simultaneously back and forth where Loki is the only static thing, and different things in the TVA are moving around.
Yeah,
and so it's a wild speculation. Which we do a lot around here. I'm not married to this theory at all. But the whole idea of this episode is them trying to get it so Loki stops time slipping, which is what they talk about in the trailer. And it's also Hunter 17 B15 and Mobius. I said it wrong once. So now Mobius. Going to the judges council, discussing the conversation of we have to stop pruning timelines because we're all variants and we're ruining people's lives and we're just
killing people or committing
genocide essentially or whatever.
Yeah. Although, I mean, sort of, you're dooming them to whatever the place was that the void where they all went. So you're not technically killing them, but
the thing that's there is going to kill them.
Well, but is it still there?
Right.
Because it was He Who Remains guard dog.
Yeah, and Sylvie and...
Or is the void even still there? Like, we don't...
Yeah.
Like, we don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would love to see Kid Loki and Alligator Loki show up somehow.
As soon as she stabbed him, because she's out, and Loki went through the door.
Right.
So he doesn't know what happened, but, like, did it all just poof? And now everybody's back on their little branch timeline that didn't get snipped now, or did get snipped, but now has come back. So did everything just go... And now it's all back where it's supposed to be?
So our timeline, I'm just going to call it the 616 timeline. Our timeline, the one true timeline, has got all the branches going off. And they show the branches multiple times going in all different directions. And they even show multiple timelines going through the filter thing into one thing. They show that graphic on the monitor. But when they go to what we believe is the past version, the timeline is much more 8-bit kind of looking on the monitor, and it doesn't go straight. It goes kind of like up and down and whatever.
Right.
And it doesn't look like there's as many branches as there is in our current timeline.
Because it was the past. It hasn't happened yet.
Right. So I They made a point of showing it, and in this show, if they make a point of showing it,
Right.
it's important.
Right. Everything means something.
They played the tape of He Who Remains telling Ramona Renslayer that you and I will rule together. So giving us, the audience, the idea that she knew a lot more was going on than what we
right
knew or
or
whatever.
did she go through that door last season to the past?
To the past, yeah.
And that's actually him talking to the current her.
Yeah.
Having gone through the past to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. It's going to be some mood. There wasn't any timey-wimey in the last season, but there's going to be some timey-wimey in this one.
Yeah.
Because Sylvie goes back.
There's a little bit of timey-wimey because they go someplace.
Yeah.
But,
not Infinity War timey-wimey, but close. And Loki pruning the wall of the Timekeeper robots, showing the Kane variants wall that is in the past when he's back there, where he hears the tape of the two of them talking in front of all the judges. Pretty much breaks the one judge that, yes, we need to stop pruning everything, and then the other judge decides that we need to go to war because they went to the armory and we're going after Sylvie. Yeah.
She has some inappropriate relationship with one of the
guards
guys.
Yeah. I don't know
what's going on there.
I'm okay with them not explaining it yet, but there's definitely something going on. It kind of almost feels like she's manipulating him for her own goals, but
maybe or he's her son.
But they're supposed to be variants that they're not supposed to know about their former lives and stuff.
Here's the problem: is the actress who is playing this person is the same actress who played
in
Game of Thrones.
Stark, no.
Mama Stark's sister.
Yeah.
Who was crazy and still breastfeeding her 10-year-old child.
Yeah.
And so we're all traumatized.
Right.
That she is.
If they cast her because of our, as fans of our fandoms, like if they cast her for this reason to kind of put self-doubt in their heads, that's perfect casting. Like, I'm totally here for all that. Introducing Obi, and having him be the one who remembers all of the time.
Right.
He works for Research and Repairs. RNA.
I think it's RNA. Repairs and
augmentation, something like that. But he remembers. His mind hasn't been erased. Mobius's has, because Obi's like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long. It's been 400 years, and Mobius is like,
hey,
right, and
what?
Yeah, I love that scene. But so I think that's going to be important going forward, that he is one of the few people who hasn't been affected by He Who Remains. He's kind of the records keeper in the basement.
Yeah,
he's repairs, but Mobius went to him as a, hey, you've been around forever, can you fix this?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of thinking, because they made a point of, that they got in 2 or 3 elevators, and going way out of the way, that this guy has just been he's forgotten about by everybody.
Yeah,
which means that Kang, or He Who Remains, or whoever, maybe didn't know about him to wipe his mind, or whoever,
or they find that, or he has found them to be irrelevant, essentially.
Yeah, because nobody
goes down there.
Nobody's gonna go down there. Nobody's been down there for 400 years. So who's gonna go down there and know that he hasn't? He still remembers everything.
I freaking love Key, because he was able to play 2 different versions of the same character. A younger, kind of not naive, but hasn't had this much time as the older
Right.
version, and I just love that the difference was essentially the glasses and a cleaner suit.
Yeah.
Like he even makes a joke. I have so much stuff going on that I've got to. I don't get sleep or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it just that kind of thing was fun. And I'm super happy for Key. Like he's got an Oscar now, and
Yes.
he should be
He
getting
deserves all the things.
he deserves all the things. We get the big plan is to prune Loki out of all of the timelines,
and then suck him back into just this one.
and then suck him back into this one. I have questions. Does this mean that all of the other Loki variants no longer exist? Or is it only this version of Loki that they did? I think it's just this version of Loki. But if they suck him out of the timeline, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. The MCU and Kevin Feige know what they're doing. But does this mean that the Loki? This is 2014 Loki. This is not Endgame Loki who dies to Thor's to
Right.
Thanos' hands.
Right.
This is the he went on his own redemption tour in last season, and so does that pull that version of Loki out of the complete timeline? Like I have questions and logistics, and I'm probably overthinking it for one episode that was 45 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he pruned himself or Loki
and that's
out
where
of
I was
everything
asking the next question. Yeah,
Sylvie's still there.
Yeah.
And she's a Loki
yeah,
variant, so she wouldn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know,
That's why I was asking.
We saw her at the end. So I think it's more like he's existing in the future, the past, and the present
Yeah,
all at the same time. He is not Alligator Loki or Kid Loki or whatever.
yeah, that's a good point.
He's existing in all these different points, which is why he keeps getting pulled back and forth. And so I think they're pruning him from the future and the past and the present, and then pulling him just back into the present.
Yeah, him being in the future version and going to the phone that was ringing, and Sylvie opens the door in her Loki outfit, saying, "I've been looking for you," and then he gets pruned. He puts both hands up, so it wasn't him. He was going to self prune. He didn't.
Right.
Somebody else pruned him,
and the head of the pruner came out the front.
So who pruned him?
Right.
So
and who was on the phone?
And who was on the phone?
And how did Sylvie end up at McDonald's in Oklahoma in 1984 or whatever it was?
Lost joke, and I can't remember. Not sub.
Not Penny's.
Penny's. God,
not Penny's boat.
Not Penny's
ship,
boat.
Whatever.
I was gonna make that joke. He's gonna pick up the phone. And,
not Sylvie. Not Sylvie.
Not the real Sylvie. So this I really like this episode. Much like no spoilers for the Ahsoka thing if you haven't watched that yet, but there are more questions at the end of that season than there was at the beginning of that season, and there's more questions here than there was at the end of the season, and there was a ton of questions at the end of the season. Now some of those have gotten asked in different versions because we weren't really sure about Kang and the variants and all that kind of stuff and whatever. Yeah. The opening shot of the whole show is the Kang statue,
right?
That they run the bus truck through and break. And he's gonna be so mad. And a lot of the stuff that we saw in the trailer was in this episode. Now there's some Victor Lively stuff that we'll get probably in the next episode or the episode after that. But most of and them going to see Sylvie at the McDonald's. They have a direct relationship, Marvel and Loki and McDonald's. She was in a McDonald's in 1985.
Yeah, because he said, try our new chicken McNuggets.
Yeah.
So that gives you...
you could see the McDonald's symbol in the background.
And he said, or we have a Big Mac. And my current wildly speculating theory, this is my headcanon, is that because the last thing Sylvie says is, I want to try everything. So she does. She doesn't have money. And that's how she ends up working there.
I was thinking the same thing. Some wild speculation I've heard. There's no truth to any of this. This is just rumors on the internet. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. We have Deadpool coming. Yeah. He has Cable's time travel piece.
Oh yeah.
And there has been some wild speculations of who could possibly show up in the Deadpool Wolverine movie that we're getting. We know we're getting it. We know it's Hugh Jackman. We know that's happening.
Yeah, we've seen pictures.
But everything else of who could possibly be in there, Tay-Swift, being in that movie, could possibly, I'm not saying with any confidence, be connected to the show because we're playing with time again.
Yeah.
And if the TVA, who is supposed to be in charge of time, and He Who Remains allowed the Avengers to play with time to defeat Thanos to keep the sacred timeline, Wade's chaotic.
Yeah.
He's chaotic good. So him running around is going to screw with the timeline even more, continuing with Wanda and Peter and Doctor Strange all messing with the timeline too.
Well, right. I was just going to say there's so
much.
So
I think there is a rumor, and it makes a ton of sense, that one of the Spidermans is going to make a cameo in this show. Now, if we take the idea of what Across the Spider-Verse does with the glitch, it makes sense. If we take the portal through time that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness does, that affects No Way Home, that Strange does, they did not glitch.
Right.
So if I'm going to take 1 and 1 and 5 and make 12, this is how we get our live action Miles Morales.
Right.
It won't be we have already got live action Prowler by by Donald Glover in Across the Spider-Verse.
It would be funny if it's I don't remember his name, the guy who voices
Malik. I want to say Malik Shelf, and I know that's not right. But yeah.
It would be because he's been he's been out there actively going, hey,
yeah,
it worked for Timu, it can work for me.
He's unfortunately a little too old for the miles that we have in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
There is, however, a guy who's an actor who is 18, who fits the right age. He's Puerto Rican and black, and his last name is Morales, who is I can't remember where he's from. He's been like doing this Simu Lee thing, like just trying to put it out in the universe. Let me play Miles.
Yeah.
But it could be a fun cap on this series that we've played with time. We have another time travel kind of thing coming, and because you open the wormhole of time travel in in-game, at some point in time in the future, you need to plug that wormhole, or that's just the solution for everything moving forward.
Yeah.
And so reestablishing the sacred timeline, which they were trying to do by pruning all the things, that moral conversation throughout this season could be very interesting. And then it puts a cap on the idea of time travel after Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's just a thought. It's just a wild speculation, but it could be the way, like I started off talking about, that this was one big 12-episode series that they wanted to set up something in one universe and then come back later and close that loop.
Yeah.
It makes sense in my head. So let us know what you thought of anything else.
No.
let us know what you think about this episode in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. We are coming from the shows, the MCU point of view. We know a little bit more about the comics than we have in the past, but still, we don't know everything. And a station identification notification. We will be at Disneyland in San Diego next week, so our review will be late.
Right.
Probably over not this weekend, but the following weekend.
Right. Maybe, try to do it when we get home.
Yeah. So I'm going to Disneyland, and I'm going to spend way too much money. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on our social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.